Thank you and good morning. So this work I'm going to introduce is the result of international cooperation between the Department of Mechanics and Aerospace of Politecnico di Torino and Department of Nanomedicine of the Houston Methodist Research Institute in the United States. So let's start with some brief introduction about drug delivery systems. As you know, these devices are used to personalize the cares to patients, reduce the economic impact on hospitals and healthcare providers, and to reduce the number of travels of people to the hospitals, and also to increase the medical efficiency, especially for long-term therapies. In our case, we are looking at those drug delivery devices based on osmotic pressure. In particular, in this case, we have, in general, let's say a general discussion, we have a drug contained inside a semi-permeable membrane that is implanted into the body in a subcutaneous regions. The water is absorbed inside the device, so the osmotic pressure into the reservoir increases, and this determines the release of drugs contained into the reservoir. There are many different configurations and typologies of these devices. Here you can see some pictures from previous works of the group working in Houston Methodist Hospital. So what we want to do in this work is to implement a sensorization to measure the flow of drug in real time. And to do this, we are looking for subcutaneous capsules, reservoirs, let's say, for drug delivery systems. The requirements of this measurement chain are, of course, the small dimension comparable to the device, biocompatibility, and first of all, high sensitivity, because we need to measure very small fluid flows in the order of the picoliter. Also, we want to achieve insensitivity to external noises or disturbances like external mechanical forces coming from the outside of the cutaneous layer. So we start with the design and the building of the capsule for the future drug delivery system, and we integrated a sensor on it. Then we continue with the work with the measurement, with the testing of measurement chain under a pressure that is not provided by the osmotic variation into the capsule, but a pressure that is applied manually by the operator. So the first choice was to start without the permeable membrane, but just checking the performances of the measurement chain on the tank, on the reservoir, without the problem of membrane. That will be added in a second time. And finally, we analyze the results. This is the basic design we have finalized, that is composed by two plates of 28 millimeter in diameter and 6 millimeter the global thickness of the reservoir. This is the basic capsule for the containing the drug. As you can see here, we provide a hole for a pipe inlet where we can introduce the fluid and to control the internal pressure. So we will place a sensor on this capsule, and we vary the internal pressure just to check the validity of the measurement chain. As a sensing strategy, we decided to use the direct measurement of strain, of the bending strain of the upper plate, and then to convert this strain into pressure, and again later into volume variation, and so flow of the drug. We build these samples by different additive manufacturing processes, by using different materials. to make a comparison between different solutions. And also we used a specific test bench to measure these performances. Here we have the three solutions, technological solutions, based on three additive manufacturing processes. On the left, we have titanium alloy processed by selective laser melting. In this case, we found that the dimensional accuracy is very good. The surface roughness is low, and this facilitated the assembling of the different parts. Of course, the titanium is quite expensive and has quite high mechanical stiffness. In the center picture, we have the polyamide version in multi-jet fusion. Okay, here the accuracy is quite lower and also the stiffness is lower, but this means higher sensitivity, as we can see later. Of course, the mechanical strength is much lower than titanium. Finally, the aluminum alloy provides, again, processed by selective laser melting, has the benefit of lightness, but has very low dimensional accuracy and high roughness, and also biocompatibility problems. So this last solution has not been used in the next steps. So we will continue with the first two. Here you can see the layout of the test bench. We connect our capsule to a pipeline with a strain pressure gauge that is able to measure pressure in the range of 0 to 10 bars, and an hydraulic piston that is controlled manually with a screw system like this. So we are able to change the pressure inside. About the strain measurement, so we have from the basic theory that a membrane under internal pressure provides a local radial and tangent strain that are equal at the central point. So if we calculate this value at the central point, we get the same value for radial and tangent directions. So we are able to relate the pressure, internal pressure, to the strain measured by means of the pressure, of course, and material properties, Young's modulus and Poisson coefficient, and geometrical dimensions like thickness and radius of the membrane. So we get the first gain factor between pressure and strain. Our strain gauge is a traditional strain gauge with reduced dimensions. It has 350 ohms resistance at ambient temperature and a gauge factor of about 2.08. We used a 4-wire quarter bridge circuit and an amplifier from the Commerce, so HBM quantum mix amplifier. Before to make the measurement, we calibrated the chain, the measurement chain, by using a well-known system that is a cantilever. On a cantilever beam, we can compute exactly the value of stress and strain at a specific axial position. So we are able to estimate exactly the value of the strain, and we use this small system to calibrate our measurement chain before to perform the real measurements on the capsule. Let's see the first results for the titanium capsule. So here we have a time stability test. We kept the same value of pressure for about 30 seconds, and then we increased step by step the pressure. Then we get the average value at each step level pressure, and we plot this average, the curves that provides the first value of the gain between strain and pressure. These are two identical tests that provide almost the same gain, that is, of course, interpolated with a linear curve. The same has been done for the polyamide capsule. The values of pressure are different because the stiffness is much lower here, so we can stay at lower values of pressure to get the same strain as titanium. And here we have the gain factors, again, between strain and pressure for polyamide capsule. And as you can see, the gain factor is about 2 orders of magnitudes higher than titanium capsule. That means higher accuracy higher sensitivity, let's say, of the measurement. Of course, we also have the analytical model, so we plot also the curves, the linear curves from the analytic model, and we can compare these values from the experimental side, the first 2 lines, and from analytic side, the 3rd line, for titanium and for polyimide capsules. So the values are almost comparable. The difference, the errors here, is due to the fact that we are considering for the model just one point, the central point. In reality, the strain gauge has a large area, larger than a non-dimensional point, of course. So this is the first gain factor between strain and pressure. Again, if we start from the basic plate theory, we can measure or calculate better the vertical displacement of the central point when the membrane is subjected to a given pressure from the one of the 2 layers of the 2 sides. And so in this expression of the center displacement, we found also the flexural rigidity here that depends again to the mechanical properties and the geometrical dimensions of the membrane. We can estimate also the average displacement of the membrane, of the whole membrane, that finally it is equal to 1/3 of the maximum central displacement of the central point. And then we can use this average displacement to compute the variation of volume of the internal chamber, of the internal reservoir of our drug delivery device. Then the second gain factor we get is the gain factor between the pressure and the volume variation. And so the global gain factor, that is the product between G1 and G2, gives the final ratio between the measured strain and the volume variation that is also corresponding to the fluid flow per unit time. That is the quantity we want to measure. Okay, if we plot in a diagram these properties, these characteristics, for titanium capsule on the left and polyimide capsule on the right, we have the relationship between the strain measurement, the drug volume, and the pressure inside the chamber. So first of all, we see from the scale of the drug volume that the sensitivity is as expected, so is very high in the order of picoliters. We have different behaviors due to the different mechanical properties of the 2 materials. Here the pressure scale is up to 10 bar, here is up to 0.2 bar. That means for polyimide capsule, we have very high sensitivity, higher than from titanium. So with the same strain, we are able to catch smaller pressure variations because the strain amount is higher in the polyimide. For titanium capsule, we have higher stiffness and also higher mechanical reliability. So there are 2 options with 2 advantages in 2 different sides. To conclude, we have investigated the sensorization, that is a pretty new concept in literature, of reservoirs for drug delivery devices. And we use different additive manufacturing processes and materials. So just to compare the results, for titanium processed by SLM, we experienced high dimensional accuracy and high mechanical strength. Of course, the cost of titanium is higher, but can be reduced by medium or large volume of production, as is normal for additive manufacturing business models in production. The polyimide version processed by multi-jet modeling provides quite higher uncertainty in dimensional accuracy, quite higher roughness of surfaces that could also have implications in assembling and in linkages and so on, but higher sensitivity because of the mechanical properties. And of course, polyimide as a lower cost and faster production than titanium. In any case, the measurement strategy we have used shows very good time stability and very high sensitivity, as demonstrated by the gain factors we calculated. Okay, for the next steps, we will, of course, implement this strains measurement in a real drug delivery system, and also to make the sensing wireless. Why wireless? Because in this way we could also move to in vivo experiments. And of course, we need to explore also other methods of sensing, different from strain gauge, especially to avoid the amplification that is required with strain gauge, and to use digital sensing instead of analog sensing. Thank you for listening, and I'm open for your question, if any.